10-second runoff.
Welcome back to the 10-second runoff powered by Culture Media with your hosts, Joe Mitchell, Alec Escade, producer Magic Mikey Shiaza. Flip that thing around. There he is.
What's up? How we doing?
There
Flip
he is.
that thing
How
around.
we doing, guys?
Man, week 6 in the books, halfway through college football season. That's crazy to say out loud.
Yeah, it's sad. It like kind of hurts.
Nah, dude, we're in the thick of it. I'm enjoying it while we're here.
You said that last week. We're still in the thick of it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You can't be more in the thick of it, right? This is the thickest part of it. We're right in the middle.
Yeah, but like the schedules kind of ramp up as
We even have
But
rivalries being played now. Texas, Oklahoma, that one was crazy. Alabama, Texas A&M, that was a fun one. Lots of stuff to cover.
yeah, USC had Arizona. So, I mean, all the rivalries, all the big games.
That one was we're not going to hold back on that one. Before we get into games, we would really, really appreciate if y'all would sub. Look, we're looking to grow our subscription amount. Why could I not get that out?
He's like, sub, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to grow our subs.
Yeah, well, obviously that's what we're looking to do because we put out these power ratings every week, right? We're trying to get to where we can afford to build a model the right way, where we're not just putting our own opinions in there. I messed around. I tried to make one myself, and it had Louisville in the top 10 as well.
Yeah,
as,
Michigan was 13.
Yeah, so that's just not accurate. We're not going to do that. Sub, so we can afford to get a model made. All right, let's get into these games. Number 1, Georgia versus 20, Kentucky. The line was 14.5. Georgia won it 51-13. Beat down. Ray Davis was a non-factor. He played his ass off.
Complete non-factor.
Huh?
Complete non-factor. I was agreeing with you.
And look, and the reality is he played his ass off, and he was the best part of Kentucky's team. But look, what Ray Davis did, he went out and beat Florida by himself a week ago. You can't do that against Georgia. We're seeing the difference in tiers in the SEC East.
Yeah, no doubt. We were both just dead wrong on this one. We were like, man, I think they keep it close. Georgia's kind of been keeping people in. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it was a complete beatdown.
Yeah.
They beat him in every facet of the game. Like you said, Ray Davis being a non-factor. I think he had, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think he had like 14 for like 50 yards, 60-something yards.
15 carries for 59 yards.
I was right there. So, again, non-factor when you're talking about, that volume. Yeah, man, I was madly impressed with Carson Beck.
Yeah.
Ra Thomas made one of the better catches I've seen all year. In the corner of the end zone. I was like, one of my buddies was like, touchdown. I was like, no. And then, yeah, I don't know how he got his foot down. But, yeah, Georgia proved a lot to me.
Yeah, you touched on it quickly, but I said last week that I had Michigan move up to my number 1 last week. And I said what I needed to see out of Georgia was I still think they're one of the best teams in college football, and there's no question about that. But I needed to see more consistency out of Carson Beck, and I needed him to take that next step.
Yeah.
He did that, man. 28 for 35, 389 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I mean, he did throw a pick, but, when you're hanging 51 on an SEC opponent, it's hard to ask for anything else.
Right.
Like, he had a hell of a game.
Unless you're LSU.
Yeah. Hell of a game. Really, really impressed with them. Or Missouri this week. But, yeah, very, very impressed with Georgia. They beat the brakes off of Kentucky in just dominant fashion. Really, really, really impressive win.
Yeah, Kentucky was an undefeated team. I mean, they were legit at the time. I mean, they still are legit. Again, Vegas had them at 14.5, meaning this is supposed to be a 2-possession game. I mean, 51-13 is about as convincing as it gets.
Yeah.
This is what they're supposed to do to a Sun Belt team.
Yeah.
What they're supposed to do to a, MAC team. And to do it to a SEC East opponent, yeah.
Yeah, and you can talk look, people talk all they want about, who does Georgia play and this, that, and the other. They're top 10 in both scoring offense and scoring defense, and they have the number 7 strength of record in the country right now.
Yeah.
Now, not necessarily strength of schedule. Their strength of schedule is only 84th. So that's bottom half of the country. But in terms of winning the games they're supposed to win, they're top 10. So
Yeah.
that's impressive to me. Yeah, they're not necessarily playing anybody, but they're beating the people they're playing, and that very much matters. And I'm not by any means saying Kentucky's a nobody. That isn't,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So, all right, let's move on. Michigan versus Minnesota. We actually locked this one, man. We locked Minnesota plus 29.5, and Michigan went ahead and beat them by 42. So we missed, but it's how it goes. It's always the night game that gets us.
It really is.
We always no. It has been every single time
Yeah.
we've lost a parlay. It's been the 11 o'clock game, the 2:30 games are always solid. It's either the 6 or the West Coast game.
9, right.
Yeah, that gets us.
And this one got us.
It got us bad. And here's the problem, right? Michigan put up 45 last week. It was the first time they'd crossed 35 all year. They hadn't really been leaving their starters in past the third quarter. I mentioned all of that in last week's or in Wednesday's show. But the issue that I had was, okay, if their starters are going to be in all game, it's going to be because they are not winning by 21, 28 points. And so I figured Minnesota would be able to hang in there and cover the 29.5. When the line was 18.5, no, not quite. Not quite. Michigan beat the piss out of them.
Oh, not close, really, yeah. This is tough, man. I mean, this to me, though, is, like, interesting because you look at a game like this, like, they weren't supposed to beat Minnesota that bad, but being that it's Minnesota, you can go, damn, all right, Michigan. That makes me look at the game we just covered and go, shit, all right, Georgia. Yeah. Like, they did that to Kentucky, a far, far better team than Minnesota. Both teams more than took care of business. I mean, Michigan actually had a bigger, margin of victory.
Right.
But, yeah, that makes me look at this Georgia game and go, yeah, all right. Well, man, McCarthy stays great. The offensive line is absurd. Michigan finally gave up more than 7 points. So, big day for Minnesota on that front. They scored an extra 3.
Yeah.
No, they got blown out bad. But, again, far expected. Just didn't expect it to be this bad.
Yeah, Michigan's got the number 1 scoring defense in the country. They had one of the best defenses last year. A couple weeks back, I said I would take Penn State's defense over Michigan's. At the time, that's out the window.
No.
Yeah, that's out the window.
Yeah,
Michigan looks so complete right now. PJ Fleck, even in the postgame presser, said this is the best team he's ever played. He said it's the deepest team, the biggest team, the fastest team, the most disciplined team. He said he's never seen a team play more as a team than this Michigan team is right now. And I think we saw that in full effect.
I agree.
I mean, Michigan is firing on all cylinders. J.J. McCarthy's not putting up any kind of crazy, super flashy numbers, but that doesn't matter when you're winning. You're hanging 52 on teams, conference opponents, and winning by 42.
Right.
Really impressed with Michigan. Spoiler alert, they're in my top 2 again.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the Red River Rivalry here. Number 3, Texas versus 12, Oklahoma. Texas was a 5.5-point favorite. Oklahoma with the win, 34-30.
Yeah. We were talking about it, man, mid-game. Like, we talked about it on the pod last week. If they're going to lose, Texas that is, it's because some shit went down, right? Somebody messed something up, and surely enough, I thought it was going to be Quinn Ewers. This game it was. He threw for a ton of yards. It's, they were behind a little bit of the game, so that kind of helps. But he did throw 2 picks and lost a fumble. The run game got going, too, so you can't really say, I'm not saying you per se, but like one can't really say, well, the run game didn't get going. The O-line, it was. He made some mistakes. Yeah, man, that defense got exposed. That I wasn't really looking for. I was like, man, Oklahoma's going to have trouble scoring this, and that. They didn't. They scored in every quarter, at least a touchdown in every quarter. So I was really impressed with Oklahoma.
I will defend Quinn Ewers here for a second. One of the interceptions was tipped up. Now, he could have not thrown the ball in general because he did kind of leave his wide receiver out to get to, he left his wide receiver out to dry right there inside the 20. Got tipped up and then ended up being a pick. And then the fumble was a strip sack. So he didn't have a lot of time there. It's not like he was hanging around in the pocket for 5-6 seconds. They got to him quickly. And then stripped it. Now, regardless.
Pocket presence.
Regardless, those are 2 turnovers.
Yeah.
To correct myself, last week you said that you figured it was going to be a shootout type of game.
Yeah.
I said it was going to be a breakout game for Texas defense, and I was way wrong.
Yeah.
On that front. Dillon Gabriel had a great game, 285 yards. He only threw for 1 touchdown, but it was when it counted. And then the rushing attack was just insane. Dillon Gabriel himself had 113 yards rushing with a touchdown. Sorry. Walker had 46 yards and 2 touchdowns, so there was really no answer for the rushing attack from Texas. Back and forth type of game, probably the craziest first 5 minutes of a football game that I've seen in a long time. But yeah, back and forth. How many lead changes were there? I can't, off the top of my head, I don't know, but it felt like it was back and forth.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 lead changes.
9 lead changes.
Yeah.
And there was a couple times when Texas was down 10, fought their way back. They kicked the field goal to take the lead, and then that was pretty much the last time they had it, 30-27. Yeah.
Yeah, they were down 27-17 in the third. Came back towards the end of the third, kicked a field goal to make it 27-20. And then 27-27 after a touchdown mid-fourth. And then, of course, they kicked the field goal to make it 30-27. And, bro, that defense just got, exposed at the end. Dillon Gabriel just diced them up. And it was tough, because, of course, I have money on Texas. And, shit happened. But I could have called it. Once I put money on it, I could have called it. I should have called all my friends and told them, hey, man, I put money on Texas. Go ahead and hedge it.
Yep.
But, yeah, what is this? Does this move Oklahoma further from 12 up or Texas further from 3 down, AP-wise, in your opinion? Obviously, the poll's out, so
yeah,
that's an objective answer. But in your opinion?
I think whenever you give a loss to Texas there, of course, they're going to drop down a little bit. Like you said, the new AP poll is out. Texas is sitting at 9. Oklahoma is sitting at 5. I'm not mad at that. Honestly, I think you saw 2 teams go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I think they're literally wherever one is, the other should be right below them. That's how I look at it. I think these are 2 very, very evenly matched teams that if they played again, I wouldn't know who to pick.
Yeah, Texas dropped one more spot than Oklahoma did jump.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But, now you're looking at a 6-0 Big 12 team who's more than in the driver's seat.
Oh, yeah.
So, top 5 is very fair to me.
Oh, I agree.
So,
yeah, I'm not mad
in an AP.
I'm not mad at Oklahoma being top 5 in the AP.
No doubt.
I do think Texas deserves to be a little bit higher, but I don't know who I'd have them jump.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the new AP rankings at the end of the show. All right.
What was your biggest thing from that game? Biggest faller or biggest riser?
Dillon Gabriel.
Yeah, I feel that.
The reason I say that is because I think we kind of all had an idea of who Dillon Gabriel was and what he was capable of, but when Texas secondary really kind of limited what Oklahoma could do in the passing attack, he just put the team on his back. Over 100 yards rushing himself and the touchdown, really, to me, really impressive to just find a way to get that offense going and put up 34 points.
Right. I agree.
All right. Number 4, Ohio State versus Maryland. Ohio State, they were a 19.5-point favorite. They covered by the hook, 37-17. Ohio State ended up winning.
Yeah. So let me get something out the way before I even dive into the game, bro. If Ohio State keeps doing this BS where they go into half tied with a team that's crappy, these slow starts, these melodic. Oh my God, could Ohio State really lose this? Dude, they're gonna get blown out by somebody worth of crap. Moving on, the second half was great. Giving up 17 and again in a half to Maryland is rough. They do cover, however. Vegas nailed it. I'm struggling with what I even think about Ohio State. These slow starts are throwing me off bad. Thoughts?
Yeah, I disagree. I said last week that I wouldn't be shocked if Maryland covered the original line. I think Maryland's actually got a really good offense. I think Talia Tagovailoa is a good quarterback. I said he was a top 2 quarterback in the Big Ten. I'm not even necessarily going to waver off of that. If I were to waver off that, I'd say he was 3. But I think he's 2 or 3 in the Big Ten. He threw 2 picks. I think that's more of a credit to Ohio State's defense, which I was very impressed with. Outside of that, you made the point that if Ohio State keeps doing this where they're tied at half with teams that they should be beating, so they keep winning. They found a way to beat Notre Dame, which is a very formidable opponent. And then you look at, to me, right? You're tied with Maryland at half. So what? You make the adjustments. You go out. You hang 20 on them in the second half, and then don't let them score. I think that's dominant. I think that's a tribute to what their coaches are doing, and the schemes that they're putting together in the locker room between halves. And we've seen that on multiple occasions now. I think it's more so feeling out the game. And if that's what their scheme is, then I have no issue with that when they can find a way to beat the teams like Notre Dame that they do. So
problem is when you get popped in the mouth, like if this is Michigan or Penn State, and you get popped in the mouth like worse than Maryland's ever going to do it, right? And you're down by 14 going into the locker rooms. Like, you lose those games every day of the week. So you're like this team is not good enough to be down 14 to either of those two opponents. And, of course, they're coming up.
I disagree. I fundamentally disagree with that statement. I do think this team is good enough.
So come back down 14 in the second half?
Yeah.
To those two teams?
Yeah.
I disagree for sure. But, of course, we'll see. Well, maybe if they get down 14. But, yeah, I mean, they hold them to 27-7 in the second half.
Also, I'm making that point that if they do get down 14, I'm not counting Ohio State out of either of those games.
I agree.
But you don't agree. You just said that they can't mount a 14-point comeback versus either of those teams.
In the second half, they're down 14. I'm not counting them out, but I think they lose both of those.
Okay.
In the second half.
The point I'm making is I think that you come in schematically against those two teams and you probably don't find yourself down 14 at half. But if they do, I'm still not counting them out because of the adjustments that the coaches are capable of making and have proven to do.
But I mean, the problem when you look at it, like if you give Michigan or Penn State, by the way, those teams both could be favored over Ohio State.
Could be.
You give them both 14 points.
I don't think they will be, though.
I think Michigan will be, but that's just me. And again, I don't know. It's gonna be close. Where's the game? It should be in Columbus.
Yeah.
So they'll probably be slightly. Ohio State will probably be slightly favored. But you give that team 14 points and only a half of football. That's rough because you have two incredible run games, better run games than Ohio State for damn sure.
It's in Ohio State versus Michigan's at Michigan this year.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I think it was at the Big House this past year? Anyway, those are two great run games. Two of the better run games in the country. That's Penn State and Michigan, I mean. They have two quarterbacks that don't throw the pick. They don't turn the ball over. Like, those are not teams that you want to get down to. They did have a pick six. Credit them for that. That was a boneheaded play by Talia. But I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm struggling with where to kind of put them. I think they're a great football team. I want to see them take care of business a little bit better. That's all.
Yeah. I'm not going to necessarily disagree with you there, but I feel like I definitely view Ohio State a little bit differently than you do.
I think so too.
Yeah, and that I just think they're a little bit better than you think they are. Moving on, number 5, Florida State versus Virginia Tech. Florida State was a 23.5-point favorite. They win at 39-17. Talk about a slow start.
Yeah. Does that cover? Why can I not do math in my head?
No, that's 22.
Close. Again, Vegas freaking nails it. Yeah. They get up 22-0 real quick. And then basically after the first quarter, that game's tight. That game's even. Again, Florida State's a team that kind of scares me with that too. You haven't seen a lot of dominant victories. Now, I would say the same to clarify, right, on a team like Georgia. Georgia did that to South Carolina. They were down, what were they down? 11 going into the break.
Yep.
Because they were 14-3 to South Carolina, and again, did the same shit, right? 21-0 in the second half. This is kind of tough because they let Virginia Tech hang around, and Virginia Tech is, I'll let you say it.
Poor.
Yeah, bad at football. Again, they're a kind of similar team. Florida State did this with Boston College. We talked about it the other day. They did this with Clemson, who, yes, that's a rivalry game. They play those close. Clemson's probably more talented on paper, so I get it. But Clemson's an interesting team this year. Same thing, though. They were able to put them away in the fourth quarter. They did score the last 17 points. Well, that's how you get it done. But at one point, it was 17-22, which is tough whenever you go up 22-0, especially to Virginia Tech, bro. They lost all that momentum. Football, especially at the elite levels, is a game of momentum. When you're able to jump like that, you got to keep rolling, especially against a subpar football team. You lose that momentum against a team, once again, like any of these other teams we talked about, it's tough. So, but, man, I love them. I feel good about them. I think they have a great receiving core, great offense at that.
Yeah, Trey Benson had a hell of a day. He had 200 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. I said slow start.
That was his breakout.
Yeah. I said slow start, obviously, for Virginia Tech, but they came roaring back.
Yeah.
And Florida State, you know what? Credit to Florida State here, in my opinion, right? Yeah, it was close at times, but credit to Florida State for getting it done when it mattered, right? Virginia Tech came back. It was 17-22, and then Florida State just took the reins right back. To me, that's you get up 22, you start thinking about the next game while the game's still being played, which is something you can't do.
Yeah.
But that's clearly what was going on. They almost had like a come to Jesus moment there, 22-17. and then it was just Trey Benson for the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Just put the team on his back.
Time of possession.
200 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then ran away the last 17 points of the game. So I feel like we've had to almost defend Florida State here on several occasions.
Yeah.
But, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think looking at the way Florida State plays their games, they dominated LSU. LSU's got one of the best offenses in the country. We now see they held them to, what was it, 21 points?
24, I think it was.
24 points.
45-24, I think was the final.
Yeah, so big credit to their defense. And then how they went and played a tight game with Clemson, found a way to win. Tight game with Boston College, found a way to win. Threatened by Virginia Tech with 17 unanswered, and then they went and scored 17 unanswered of their own. This is a team that doesn't quit. They can get punched in the mouth and keep going and find ways to win games. I think that's very, very impressive considering the talent on their team as well.
Yeah, the only reason this is concerning is because this is like you said, we're having to defend them over and over and over again. Again, all things are going to come to fruition. Same crap with Ohio State. I got to see that. Because when you have something like kind of looming like that, like Georgia started to kind of get in that box, right? They did it with Auburn. Auburn kind of stuck around, but then they put them away barely. I was like, damn, Georgia. And then same crap happened with, South Carolina before that. And I'm like, I'm worried about Georgia, bro. Like, these are games you got to just run away with. Well, they showed me already. So I feel better about Georgia now. You can't be hanging around with these teams that you shouldn't be hanging around with. And Kentucky did everything but hang around. So I got to see that for Florida State and Ohio State still. Ohio State's kind of tough. They have a nice rest of the year. Florida State really doesn't. So it's going to be hard to kind of convince me until even Lord. I mean, they get Duke this year.
Yep, and Louisville.
Okay. Yeah, they got to take care of business in both of those games. I don't want to. If this is going to be an elite team, because I do believe they make the playoffs. Just that's percentage-wise how it's going to go. I think. And if that's the case, I got to see them put those teams to rest.
Yeah.
So, but till I see it, man, I'm not saying I'm worried, but I got to see something. Great team though.
Yeah. On that note of speaking of hanging around with teams that you shouldn't be, USC versus Arizona. USC was a 21.5-point favorite. USC found a way to win 43-41 in triple overtime.
Yeah, I mean, there's 133 teams in the. Well, how many Power 5 teams? Is there a number out of your head?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
60, 70, somewhere in there.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Arizona's got to be a bottom 5 team, in my opinion. Bottom 5, bottom 7. This one's tough.
With a backup quarterback, redshirt freshman out of Arizona, he balled.
Yeah, USC is in trouble.
Yeah,
bad. There simply is not a team above them in this that we've talked about. Well, there's not a team ranked above them that we've talked about that they can touch. They're not competing with Florida State. They're not competing with Ohio State.
Well, they're going to have to put up 40 to 50 points.
Yeah.
Which they're capable of doing, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it took them 3 overtimes to get 43 on Arizona.
Yeah, it was 28-28 at the end of regulation.
Yeah, that's a damn problem.
Yeah, that's a problem for sure.
Caleb looked. The defense looked. I mean,
I'm not going to let you get away with that. Caleb looked through the air. He had 219 yards, 219 yards and a touchdown through the air. But he was putting balls on the money when he could. Like even in the overtime, there was a 2-point conversion that was dropped in the second overtime. That was one of the best balls I've seen thrown, definitely this weekend, but maybe all year. Beautiful ball with defenders on either side of the receiver. Caleb was running to his right while trying to avoid a blitzer coming from his right, and it was just a gorgeous ball. This is not on Caleb that this was a tight game. And then again, on the ground, unbelievable. He was, what did he do on the ground?
He ran for 3.
Yeah. 12 carries for 41 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now look.
And the 2-point conversion to win it.
And the 2-point conversion to win it. Now, only 3.4 yards per carry there, but all clutch plays. Scored a touchdown in overtime on the ground, and then got the 2-point conversion to go take the lead. To me, the reason that this game was close is not on Caleb Williams. It's on a number of things. At the end of the game, at the end of regulation, you get a bad snap that's over the holder's head. He literally has to stand up, try and squat back down and replace the ball. The kicker has to wait to kick it. Just a disaster, man. This is a team that defensively, special teams, everything not named Caleb Williams has problems. Now, their offense is good enough to hang with anybody. They had a bad game against Arizona. But outside of Caleb Williams, they have lots of things to fix if they're going to be an elite team in college football.
Yeah.
Or win their conference, for that matter.
Oh, winning the conference is out of the realm of possibility.
It's not out of – they're undefeated. They absolutely still have a shot. If they can improve in a couple categories, they absolutely still have a shot. Yeah. But they have a long way to go.
They have the number 1 remaining strength of schedule.
Yeah.
And all of the teams, it's about as bumpy as it gets.
Yeah, yeah. They have – what do they have coming up?
Statistically, it is. They have Notre Dame. They have
Oregon,
and Washington, and Utah.
And UCLA.
Grow up.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, they'll lose at least 3 of those.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think they make the conference championship. I've said it before the year. I mean, bro, I give you most of what you said about Caleb. I'll lie. No. I mean, Arizona and USC have equally bad defenses. Probably Arizona has a worse one. Their backup, redshirt freshman, quarterback, Noah
Fifita.
Yep, that's him. 25 for 35 for 303 and 5.
Baller. Like dude, he was putting my favorite thing that I saw about him is he had guys in man coverage versus USC.
I saw that.
And was just dropping them in.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily great balls, but the trust as a redshirt freshman that he has with those receivers to just throw up jump balls and let them make plays, and the confidence that, hey, my receivers are going to go make plays against these DBs is impressive, really impressive from a redshirt freshman.
And then again, Caleb Williams was 14 for 25. That's rough. Didn't throw a pick, so I'll give him that. But 1 touchdown through the air. That was rough. And like you said, 12 rushes for 41. And this is with overtime, just to be fair, 3 overtimes. He did have 3 touchdowns on the ground, but they were lay-ins. So Caleb Williams has got to step up. That was probably his worst game in the last 15, 20 games. Worst game this year and last year. Statistically,
but one of the most clutch games he's had as well.
But it's Arizona. That's my point. Statistically, probably the worst, and against one of the worst, if not, one of the worst opponents. So that's a rough combo. Statistics and a horrible opponent. I mean, that's his worst game he's played in a long time. And really, he should have lost.
And that can be true, but when you have if Caleb Williams is my quarterback and I'm expecting Heisman performances week in and week out, and he has a bad day, but also he's the guy that goes and wins the game for me, I'll take it. I'll take that.
But again, it's the same crap I'm talking about with all these other teams, and I sound like a broken record. Till you don't, because like a lot of these teams haven't played a damn soul. They get to. I mean, look what happened with. That wasn't his fault. But like Colorado wasn't his fault at all.
Right.
But they did get kind of stagnated. But you could do that and you could do whatever you want. But when you're talking about a top 8 team, I hold you to the highest freaking standard possible. You need to be able to make the playoffs if you're in the top 10, in my head. And if you make the playoffs, I got to see you win a game. Well, I'm comparing everybody to that metric. That performance is not going to get it done. USC is not going to get it done to that metric. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, but at the same time, to me, with the number of problems on USC's team, to look at the makeup of the team, the struggles they have defensively, the lack of run game they have, giving up 500 yards, giving up 300 yards passing to Noah Fifita, a redshirt freshman, it's insane to me. All due respect, it is absolutely insane to me to look at that game and say Caleb Williams has to step up. He's the only reason they won that game.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
All right.
They have a Heisman quarterback. He needs to go win against Arizona, who's 3-3. But also, in this game in particular, another 50 quarterbacks would have gone and won this game. 50 is a lot, way more than is true. But probably another 20 to 30 quarterbacks go win this game, possibly blow them out.
100%. But even 28 points being scored against Arizona, which again, yes, you want Caleb. You want to go put up more than 28 points.
Yeah.
But scoring 28 points against Arizona is enough to beat that team.
I mean, yeah, should be.
100%. And so that's my entire point. Is looking at that game saying we gave up 28 to Arizona in regulation, to say Caleb is the one that has to step up is crazy to me. They gave up 41 throughout the entire course of the game. Now, yeah, it was overtime. I get it. But the first touchdown was a one-play touchdown to the left pylon that, I mean, it was just abysmal. That was horrid by the USC defense. And then they get Arizona to a third down in the second overtime. Arizona runs it was an option to the left side. The quarterback faked the pitch, came back inside, pitched it, fumbled, ball hit the ground, running back picked it up, trucked the guy, first down. Like, just pathetic defense.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many problems on that team to say Caleb Williams has to take the step up when he literally has a Heisman and is having the best year so far of any quarterback. There's no way. No, statistically, he's having the best year so far of any quarterback.
I mean, yeah.
So
Michael Penix had a bye, so.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, Michael Penix is, for sure.
Well, not before this week.
Well, okay.
Caleb Williams had passed him up last week. So regardless, look, we both think USC is better than Arizona. USC has a lot of things to fix if they're going to find themselves in the Pac-12 conversation.
Yeah. I mean, to touch on their defense, I mean, their defense gave up like 100 and – I had it in front of me a second ago. They gave up 138 yards to one receiver, and they gave up 4 touchdowns to another.
Yeah.
I mean, that's brutal.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll nitpick again too is like 28 points should be enough to, like, if you hold Arizona to 28, you should be enough to win. I agree, but that's kind of my point. Like, if you said if they score 28, that should be enough to beat Arizona.
USC.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would say the inverse is also true. If you hold Arizona to 28, you should win.
100%, but you should hold Arizona to 14 is what my point is. Or
I mean,
even 21, bro.
Yeah, that's true. But even then, I mean, they win this game 28-21, and we're like, Caleb needs to play better. They should have blown him out. I mean, to me, it all falls back on Caleb. The defense is horrible, but we knew that. What I brought out of this game that I didn't take into it was Caleb needs to step up. That's it.
I agree to disagree.
And again, he's the best quarterback in college football. There's no debate. He's the best quarterback in the country.
Yeah.
But, like, you look at somebody, like, look at the several last ones that, well, Stetson's a exception. So that didn't make any sense. But anyway, I just want to see consistency. That's all.
Yeah. Yep, agree to disagree. Number 10, Notre Dame at 25, Louisville. Notre Dame was a 6.5-point favorite. Louisville wins this one 33-20. I did think Notre Dame was going to win this. I thought they were going to find a way to win a close one, but I also did say that I wouldn't be shocked to see Louisville find a way to beat them, or if it's even just a close game, one possession either way. I did not see it being a 13-point game, but I think Louisville just caught Notre Dame at the exact right time, coming off back-to-back weeks of last possession wins or last possession loss against Ohio State, and then a last possession win over Duke. They were just beat down, worn out, and potentially looking ahead at some of the tougher games they have coming up as well, one of them being USC.
Yeah.
I think Louisville just caught them. They caught them at the right time.
Yeah. I mean, talk about quarterbacks that usually play on a high level that need to step up. Sam Hartman.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks.
Yeah.
27 QBR.
Yeah.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
Aldrich Estime gets absolutely bottled up. 2 yards a carry. 10 carries, 20 yards. Jeremiah Love had 7.4 yards per carry, but they only gave it to him 5 times.
Yeah.
I mean, brother, they got flat beat. I mean, there's really not 2 ways around it.
Yeah, it's very.
I mean, go ahead.
This is a very similar situation to one of the games last week, right? If you just look at it was the Kentucky game last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Florida.
Very similar situation. If you told me Jack Plummer is going to throw for 145 yards and only 1 touchdown, I said, yeah, Notre Dame is going to win. You wouldn't have, if you told me that, you wouldn't have accounted for Jawar Jordan having 143 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns, as well as, 2 more guys combining for another 50 yards themselves. So you gave up 200 yards on the ground as a Notre Dame team. Again, I think that stat specifically falls on this is a tired front 7 after 2 really, really, really tough games. That doesn't make it a W on the schedule. It's still an L, and the second L of the year, which really, really hurts. Second L in 3 weeks. But they have a couple more games coming up that they could maybe redeem that. But as an independent university, not in a conference, I think they're done. I don't think there's any way they make a college football playoff at this point.
Not from the couch on on conference championship weekend. It's impossible.
Right.
How about Louisville forcing 5 turnovers?
Yeah.
3 picks, recovering 2 fumbles.
Yeah.
Super impressed with them. I mean, they are undefeated. Sadly, there's a tough road ahead. All good things must come to an end. But, yeah, man, I mean, Notre Dame, that's rough. Again, they caught them at a bad time. Louisville, I was really impressed with.
Oh, yeah.
So that was fun to watch from them.
Well, Louisville's going to get Pitt next week, and they get Duke in the following week. So,
Jack Harlow stormed the field at
Okay.
that game. That's one of the news stories. So had to throw that in there.
I'm really interested. So not trying to look too far ahead, but I'm really going to be keeping an eye on that Duke-Louisville game. Duke's played 2 really, really, really good games so far. I think this one's going to be interesting. Hey, the winner of that game finds themselves seriously in the ACC championship conversation.
Yeah.
Duke and Louisville. All right.
UNC and Florida State, though. I mean, that's tough. Because do they get UNC? UNC still undefeated.
Louisville plays for the rest of the year. They have Pitt, Duke, Virginia Tech, Virginia, Miami, and they end the year with Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. What about Duke?
Duke? Let's see.
Duke still undefeated? No, they lost to no.
All right.
It's gonna be tough over UNC.
Duke has NC State this week, and then they get Florida State at Florida State next week, and in week 8 at that point. And they follow that up with Louisville. So Louisville's going to have another advantage catching Duke at the right time.
Right.
And then they get UNC on November 11th.
Down.
So three tough games left on their schedule. I'm not even going to necessarily give them the NC State game. That was probably a little bit closer than Louisville would have liked their game 2 weeks ago. All right, let's move on here. Number 11, Alabama at Texas A&M. Bama was a 1.5-point favorite. We locked this one, Texas A&M plus 9.5. That did hit for us. Bama wins at 26-20.
Brother Milroe is he's tough. Tough, not in a good way. He's bad. He's not like horrible. He's not terrible. He's not awful.
He threw for 321 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, but he's rough. All of those incompletions, and I don't know if it's actually all of them. This is not a stat. He had 12 incompletions. 8 or 9 of those must have been not close. I mean, it was like every time I looked up from my phone, there was a ball soaring or skipping. I'm like, damn, bro. He did throw a pick. So did Max Johnson. Jermaine Burton. My God. You, me, and Magic Mikey could all get the ball to him and let him make plays. That dude's incredible. We talked about it before the year. We were like, man, Bama's got to have, and it's funny because they literally quoted us on this broadcast. They were like, they don't really have this, this Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones type. And I'm like, hey, that's what we said. And then they literally were like, well, it could be Jermaine Burton. And as they said that, he's like 53-yard bomb. That kid's incredible. So watching him break out's been really fun. But man, Milroe, we were talking about it, pre-show. And we always talk about it, if they make the playoffs, it's gonna be tough to beat them. It's gonna be tough to do that with Milroe, I think.
With the weapons they have, there's definitely a way. That means they have to get past. Look, at this point, they've already gotten past Ole Miss. They've already gotten past Texas A&M. They're the sole leader in the SEC West. They're still going to have to play LSU. Who else they have? They're going to have to play Arkansas at some point. That's a win. I think that LSU game becomes really, really important now because splitting that game, let's just talk hypotheticals here. If Alabama does lose to LSU, they would both have it would be a 3-way tie between Alabama, LSU, and Ole Miss in the SEC West. Which, correct me if I'm wrong here, but because that's a 3-way tie, it would go to over
conference record.
Well, Right, that's what I'm saying. It's conference record. So conference record, there would be a three-way tie. Then it would go to overall record, eliminating LSU because they would have the most losses at that point. And then Alabama has the tiebreaker over Ole Miss.
Well, depending on what Ole Miss does.
Right, I'm assuming everybody wins out and LSU beats Alabama.
Okay. Yeah.
Then that would be the scenario. And if that's the case,
Ole Miss is in.
No, Bama is. Because Bama has the tiebreaker over Ole Miss. Ole
Miss has a better overall record, though.
No, they do.
They're
they
in one
would
loss.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would.
So that's what I was saying. I'm like, well, they're in.
Yeah.
And then after that would be LSU and then Bama.
Yeah.
So yeah, but Bama's in the driver's seat as it sits. Yeah.
100%.
Because they both have one loss and Bama's is out of conference at least for another year.
And LSU may not field the defense versus Bama, so
yeah. But I mean, dude, at the same rate, and this is not a freaking preview show, but it's going to be tough for this Bama offense to keep up with LSU's offense. So we'll see. But yeah, man, Bama's more than in the driver's seat. I'm really excited to see this team play Georgia if everything stays. I'm not
if they get
even
to that
predicting
point.
that, right? But
if they get to that point, yeah. Number 13, Washington State at UCLA. UCLA was a 3.5-point favorite, and they won at 25-17. So, what did we lock this one? We locked this one Washington State
plus 9.5.
Plus 9.5. So we cleared that barely, but we did clear that. UCLA wins it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'd be lying if I told you I thought Washington State was the 13th best team in the country. I think you'd say the same thing.
I don't know. I definitely. I wasn't questioning it last week. Their offense is really, really good.
Right. I think they were one. I think this was coming. I think this was always looming. I mean, Cameron Ward goes 19 for 39, which I don't know if you got a napkin over there from that. That's less than 50%. No, seriously, like just terrible. For 197, one touch, 2 picks, with a 32.8 QBR. That's against UCLA's defense. That's poor.
Yeah, that's the thing is UCLA actually has they actually have a decent defense, but it's because they have one of the best run defenses in the country.
Yeah.
I was not expecting them to stifle Cameron Ward the way they did. That being said, they also have UCLA has one of the best running offenses in the country, and you saw that on full display.
Yeah.
Carson Steele is unbelievable. 140 yards on the ground. Keegan Jones had 2 touchdowns on the ground with 45 yards. TJ Harden had 22 yards of his own. Just a really good complete game by UCLA. Dante Moore had 290 yards with 1 touchdown. He did throw 2 interceptions.
He also threw 2 picks. Yeah.
So not a great day from either quarterback necessarily, but Dante Moore's on the winning side of it, and so he's going to get the love.
And Washington State lost 2 fumbles. That's tough. Both in the second half. So that's killer. Hard to win when you do that. When you're already in a close game. They were winning too, 17-12. So, and then didn't score again.
Yeah. At what point do we have to start talking about UCLA as a contender in the Pac-12?
Oh, never. Absolutely not. I mean, I thought you were about to say to crack the top 25. Because if so, we're going to have the conversation, right? And matter of fact, they did. They're in it too.
They're in the top 20.
Yeah, dude, just jump. I mean, they must have literally been at 26. No, I'm dead ass. They must have literally been at 26. And that's all right. Conversation for a little bit later. Didn't get to look at the AP rankings yet, but that kind of set me off a little bit. But not ever, in my opinion. I mean, I think they're realistically the 5th or 6th best team in the Pac-12.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not taking them to win it by any means. But I think this is a really interesting team. The mix of a young quarterback like Dante Moore, who's got all the talent in the world, Carson Steele in the run game, a really good run defense, Chip Kelly calling the plays. There's a lot of pieces to this UCLA team that I think they're just a couple pieces short from being in that conversation of true contention for the Pac-12.
Yeah.
But I do think they're a dark horse, and seeing them beat teams with an offense as good as Washington State's, maybe they can hang around. Again, I'm not predicting them to. If I were to predict a UCLA versus Oregon or a UCLA versus Washington, I'm going to take Oregon and Washington.
I'm going to take them both by 3 possessions. Yeah.
I'm going to take Oregon and Washington in both of those games, but I'm going to be watching it because UCLA is a really sneaky team. So again, not putting them in that conversation, but they're a dark horse that I'm keeping my eye on.
All right, fair enough.
All right, number 14, North Carolina versus Syracuse. North Carolina was a 9.5-point favorite. They won 40-7.
I'll take Syracuse. No, I'm full disclosure.
Yeah.
Syracuse let me the fuck down. I mean, there's really not there's not two ways around it. North Carolina looked really good. The fact that I predicted a game and I was 35 points off.
Yeah.
I don't deserve to be on a college football show, but that's okay. That's okay. Because here we are. But yeah, man. And to be fair, Vegas wasn't even close either.
No.
North Carolina jumping on them like this is very impressive, I think.
So, Tez Walker was a difference maker in this game. Are we going to talk about how the NCAA denied his eligibility preseason, waited 4 games, randomly accepted it, and then you see him hang 40 on Syracuse?
Right.
I mean, that's a receiver that, you know, Drake May would have loved to have earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And obviously we'll use going forward, but I think now getting him back on the offense changes the way we look at North Carolina moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, is this a team you think can compete with anybody in the ACC?
I think they can.
I think the one team I'm talking about is Florida State. Can this team compete with Florida State?
I think they can hang with anybody offensively, but they can't afford to make any mistakes.
Yeah, no, I agree. But, you know, luckily in this one, Drake May didn't make a damn one.
Yeah.
442 freaking yards with 3 touchdowns. High QBR. Old boy, the backup, had a .2 QBR. So him coming in like that was big for them towards the end. But, yeah, I mean, they got the run game going. They ran for over 200 yards. I mean, you're talking about 650 yards of total offense on a team I thought was going to win the game.
Yeah.
You need a new co-host. But with that being said, I mean, yeah, this was really impressive for UNC. I don't know, man. I feel like they could definitely hang with Clemson. I feel like them and Clemson would be a lot better than last year. I think they're just as good as last year, and I think Clemson took a massive step back. But looking at them in Florida State, I don't know. But like you said, they can keep up. You know, Drake May ran for one. I mean, he's incredible. But his biggest thing is what I kind of knocked Caleb Williams for, even though that's kind of like a first world problem, telling the Heisman to be a little bit more consistent. I mean, come on. But like Drake May, I mean, is actually inconsistent. Not like Caleb inconsistent. But yeah, man, I mean, if he does some crap like that against Florida State, which I don't think he could, but if he had some kind of outing like this, man, they're hard to beat. Don't matter who they're playing.
Yeah.
So, that they really impressed me.
Okay, let's move on here. We have Oregon State at Cal. Oregon State was a 9.5-point favorite. They won it 52-40.
How about Cal putting up 40 against Oregon State?
Yeah, it's a little bit concerning seeing Oregon State's defense give up 40 to Cal, but scoring 52 offensively, huge for them. That is the second highest they've scored all year. The only time they scored more than that was 55 versus UC Davis in the second game of the year. Solid performance offensively.
Yeah, DJ throws 5 touchdowns.
Here's the thing with Oregon State, right? They lost they lost to Washington State in week 4, right? Yeah, it was week 4 that they lost to Washington State. Seeing Washington State lose like that to UCLA. Look, we're going to get that Oregon State-UCLA matchup next week. I'm really, really, really excited to see that, especially with the power run offense that UCLA has. I think that's actually a good matchup for Oregon State, and I'm interested to see how that plays out. We'll cover that in the preview show. Where are you at on Oregon State in the Pac-12?
I have them higher than UCLA. I think they do win that game. Similar, though. I don't think they could contend. I think you have 4 teams better than them if Cam Rising ever decides he wants to try a career in football. Well, it becomes a passion.
Again, I know Cam Rising didn't play in that game, but they did beat Utah 21-7.
Yeah. I think they're a top 4 team in the conference. I'd love to watch them play USC. I would for sure. But I think you have 2 true college football juggernauts in this conference. I really do. In Washington and Oregon. And by golly, we get to see that in 6 days. So.
And this is gonna be
and we'll have different winners.
This is gonna be a true test because I have Washington winning the Pac-12 and you have Oregon winning the Pac-12. And we took those preseason.
Now, to be fair, I think whoever wins this game is gonna immediately make it harder for them to win the Pac-12. Sadly, because I think the other one still gets in. So that's a rough stretch.
I was asked the other day who I think wins the Heisman, and I think I think right now.
Is the Heisman going to play in that game on Saturday?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. The reason I say that is I think right now Jayden Daniels from LSU is playing like a Heisman winner, but I don't think his record at the end of the year is going to be good enough for him to win it. I'm honestly willing to say the same about Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams already won a Heisman. He's certainly capable of winning another, but I don't think his record will be good enough. I said that preseason, and I maintain that opinion.
I agree.
That being said, I think we're looking at potentially Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. I think the winner of this game I think
quarterbacks. This winner of this game's quarterback almost cements himself if he has a big day.
I think they separate themselves for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think that player becomes the favorite.
And honestly, here's the thing, right? I think if Oregon wins this game and Michael Penix Jr. doesn't have a great game, we have to really start talking about is Brock Bowers in the mix for Heisman. Don't look at me like that, bro. That's a real thing.
Oh no, I disagree. But
let's look at the odds. Let's see.
They love to do this. They do this every year. They take the best team in the country. They pick a really good player on that team, and they're like, "Ooh, I know what we could do. We could talk about him being the best player in college football." And
we don't have to look at the odds, right? It's not.
He's like, "Well, the odds are stupid anyway."
It's not favorable for me. But the point is, I think I would not be shocked to see Brock Bowers end up in. I would not be shocked to see Brock Bowers end up in New York. Do I think he actually wins the Heisman? No, I don't. The first two games, he had a game this year against Ball State where he had one reception for 3 yards. Who, Brock?
Yes, bro.
Okay, but he's the sole reason. It doesn't matter. We're not talking about Georgia.
I would change the subject too. No, dude. If Oregon, you said if Oregon wins and Michael Penix doesn't have a good game,
correct.
Brock Bowers all the way out of left field. Bo Nix.
My reasoning there, is because I think right now Bo Nix is having an amazing year.
Yeah.
But Michael Penix Jr. is having a much better year statistically.
Agreed.
Than Bo Nix.
Right.
So if Oregon, if Washington finds themselves with a loss and potentially with more down the line, I'm not predicting that, just throwing thoughts out there, then I think the argument of somebody else from the field, and that's really what I should have said, but somebody else from the field versus Bo Nix makes a lot more sense than somebody else from the field versus Michael Penix Jr.
I would agree.
So,
well, I think some of that has to do with the pass as well. I think him leading the league in passing yards last year doesn't hurt. There. Yeah. Even if statistics were the same this year, I think that helps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I can't wait for the YouTube comments on that one.
Yeah.
All right, number 16, Ole Miss versus Arkansas. Ole Miss was 11.5-point favorite. They won it 27-20. Again, just another big win at home for Ole Miss.
Yeah, we have to back up. So I'm looking at Michael Penix Jr. stats, 1999. You were born, not bad. Yards. He had a bye this week, so it is what it is. Caleb Williams currently has 1,822 yards with an extra game. So they're not close, those two.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like Caleb, it's going to be tough for Caleb to win the Heisman. To me, I don't even know if he's still the favorite, but, he'd be hard-pressed to win the Heisman at this point. Because, unless they beat Washington and Washington loses on Saturday. But with Michael Penix Jr. having the kind of year he is and finishing how I very much think he's going to finish, that team more specifically is going to finish, I feel, I don't know. Real difficult.
Okay.
Michael Penix Jr. is a better quarterback is where I'm going with that. But
okay.
Has been this year.
All right, number 16, Ole Miss versus Arkansas. Ole Miss, 11.5-point favorite. They win it 27-20. Another big home win. After that big win over LSU last week, they get another one-possession win versus Arkansas. Yeah,
man. Arkansas freaking they've lost 4 times. I don't know the other 2 losses, but they kept LSU close. They keep Ole Miss close. Like they don't lose big. It seems like it's kind of funny. But man, a 2-4 team. That should tell you a lot about the SEC. But anyway, yeah, man, they picked KJ Jefferson off twice. So forcing 2 turnovers is huge. Jackson Dart had a very J.J. McCarthy-esque game. Just pretty efficient. Didn't throw any picks. Threw a touchdown. It's kind of cool. But the run game, man. I mean, they run for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Judkins had 65, and Ulysses Bentley had the 4th. Wow. Had 94 yards. I didn't know he was the 4th.
Yeah.
Knew he was good at football.
Yeah. Their running game has really turned a corner since that LSU game. The last 2 games, just been dominant on the ground. Back to Arkansas, they've lost their last 4 games. BYU, they lost by 7. LSU, they lost by 3. They lost to Texas A&M by 12, and then Ole Miss by 7. So all really tight games. Texas A&M being the largest margin at 12 points. So this is an Arkansas team that's going to probably beat the brakes off Mississippi State when they get them. Going to play a really good game against Florida. They still have Auburn and Missouri. I think those are all winnable games that they have left on their schedule. I mean, they could very well find themselves being a 6-6 team and dominating whoever they play in their bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not a bad team.
No,
they just can't finish, frankly. That being said, Arkansas is looking down the barrel of their 5th loss in a row. They get Alabama this week, so that's tough.
It's not who you want when that's going on. No,
it's tough because they're really not a bad team. They're just not. They just can't find ways to finish games.
Yeah.
But Ole Miss won. Let's talk about them again. Yeah, their running attack has really turned a corner.
Yeah.
And then Jackson Dart's been solid for him, man.
He has.
No turnovers versus LSU. I don't believe he had a turnover in this game either.
No.
Just really solid, dominant game 2 weeks ago, and then to come out and just not put up the same numbers, but just be reliable and be a quarterback that's not going to cause problems for you with the rushing attack that they are now developing. This is a dangerous team the rest of the way. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, they got to KJ Jefferson 5 times, too. So, looking at that defense, I mean, that was an impressive outing from them.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't blow them out.
You said what, Mikey? Nothing? Ole Miss. Sorry, I thought I heard something. My fault.
Okay.
Ole Miss gets Auburn this coming weekend. That's going to be a good game. Their 2 biggest tests down the stretch are Texas A&M and Georgia. So
Ole Miss gets Georgia this year?
Yeah. November 11th.
I didn't know Georgia got Ole Miss this year.
That's going to be a good game.
Okay. No, I didn't know that at all. I don't know. Like, I had no clue. I mean, that's going to be a good game.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
Wow.
Ole Miss is a solid team, bro. They're really, in my opinion.
You remember when I was like, Georgia, yeah, all right. I don't know. I didn't get that far, I guess, yet.
Okay.
But okay.
Yeah. All right. Which is really interesting. That's going to throw off
college football.
Well, yeah, for
Possibly.
sure. But potentially the SEC West as well. Again, if Alabama, again, just
so now we got to back up.
Well, just talking scenarios. If Alabama loses to LSU, that would be their 2nd loss of the year. LSU would have 2 losses and the tiebreaker over Alabama, and Ole Miss would be leading the SEC with a conference record equal to Bama's, while Bama has the tiebreaker over them. But if they lose to Georgia, now they have 2 conference losses, and LSU is leading the SEC West.
If there's a triangle, LSU goes. Yeah.
In that scenario.
If they're all 10-2, LSU goes.
Yeah.
And, if they're all 10-2, LSU goes.
Yeah. So, really tricky. And look, Texas A&M only has 1 loss as well, and it's to Alabama in the SEC West. Yeah. So, Texas A&M is right there in the mix as well.
But they're still a 1-loss team.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But again, Ole Miss has to play them.
And LSU does too.
Yep.
So SEC West is wide open.
Wide open.
Whoever just is going to put their bid in to lose to Georgia, I mean, it's just there's so many candidates right now.
Yeah.
So
whoever's going to go lose to Georgia.
And everyone else in the country. So it's one of those. But, yeah. All
right, 17 Miami versus Georgia Tech. Miami was a 20-point favorite.
Yeah.
They lost 23-20 to Georgia Tech. And also, the worst situational coaching I've ever seen in college football. At the end of the game, Miami's up 4. Could have kneeled it out. Ran it, fumbled it, was down, but ruled the fumble.
Yeah.
And Georgia Tech goes down and wins.
Yeah, they on 3 plays, mind you. Or 2 plays. 2 or 3 plays.
With no timeouts.
Yeah, Dan Lanning's done that twice now.
Yeah, he did it at Oregon.
Yeah, that they quite literally were a 20-point favorite 20-point favorite, and scored 20. They could have shut them out and still not covered. They would have pushed. Like, that's a damn shame. Tyler Van Dyke gets murked. Georgia Tech's terrible, too, to be fair. I don't really feel like spending a ton of time on this one. I mean, this is a rough one. Miami's completely out of the question for anything they were already in the question for. And Georgia Tech's not going to come.
Well, there's no more room for error for Miami because being one loss with that loss to Georgia Tech in conference, that's rough.
Mm-hmm.
Given you now they have one loss in the ACC and they're still going to have to go play all the rest of their ACC opponents that are better than Georgia Tech.
Right.
So that's tricky. Now, granted, Miami struggled all game and still should have won, and literally gave it away. Literally, they could have sat on it. They could have just taken a knee and went to the house and been mad and looked at the film and fixed all their issues or attempted to fix all their issues, but they literally decided that wasn't good enough, and they had to go run for another 4 yards and handed Georgia Tech the game.
Yep.
Really disappointing if you're a Miami fan. If you're a Georgia Tech fan, congratulations. Number 21, Missouri versus 23, LSU. LSU was a 4.5-point favorite. They won it 49-39 in one of the craziest games of the weekend.
Yeah, this game was way closer than the score permits.
Yeah.
Tons of lead changes. Pick 6 in the last second makes it a 10-point game.
You meant depicts?
What did I say?
Permits. You said
I said pick 6.
No. You said the game was way closer than the score permits.
I didn't, and we'll watch that back.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, man, pick 6. That was tough for Missouri right there at the end. And everyone I watched the game with were like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. They scored too quick. LSU loses because they were going to go however many hell yards they needed to and win. And sure shit, Major Burns comes up with a pick at the end. So very impressive for them on that play. Other than that, LSU, that defense, man, worst. I would venture to say the worst secondary in the country, possibly the worst defense, and that's the FBS. Possibly the worst defense in the FBS. But the offense is the opposite. One of the better offenses in the country.
I'd make the argument that early in the game, we were actually texting about this, watching the LSU game, and we were like, this might be one of the worst defenses in the FBS.
Yeah.
I would argue that LSU's defense may have turned a corner in that game.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up 22 in the first 3 possessions, and the rest of the way gave up 17, with some crucial stops when it mattered, including the pick 6 at the end. Now, granted, I'm not saying LSU's defense turned the corner and is now one of the best defenses in the country or even the SEC or even the SEC West. They're not a good defense, but I think you saw their defense step up enough to give Jayden Daniels the room to go win that game.
Yeah.
Which is not something they did a week ago against Ole Miss. So I think that's a positive. That's a silver lining if you're an LSU fan. Now you need to see that continue to carry out. If you can find – look, what you haven't been seeing as an LSU fan is your defense isn't going and getting you 4 or 5 stops a game.
No.
They're not. They're giving up 30 and 40 week in and week out.
Yeah.
If you can go out, if you can go in expecting, all right, look, the defense is going to give us 5 stops. We have to score on all but 4 possessions to win. That's kind of what your offense is already doing, and you can maybe take a breath a little bit.
And let's talk about it too, right? 4 stops, 5 stops is 5 stops is more than they've had in the last 2 weeks combined. To be fair, they had tied. They had 2 against Ole Miss and 3 against Missouri. I mean, they're probably the second worst defense in the SEC, and I don't know from there.
I'm not going to disagree.
I know.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying if you're an LSU fan, it looked like something happened with the defense. They haven't been able to force a turnover. They forced 2 against Brady Cook, who had literally had the longest streak of passes without a turnover.
Right.
And LSU picked him off twice.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a silver lining there. That being said, we all know that they're a bad defense. Look, we just laid out a scenario where LSU could make it to the SEC championship. It's got to be behind Jayden Daniels. There's no other question about it.
Who, by the way, is incredible.
Oh yeah,
playing like a top 5 quarterback in the country, possibly even top 3.
He's playing like a Heisman.
Yeah,
currently right now.
Yeah, I mean somebody sent me a graphic that there was him and Caleb Williams, and the teams they've played, they have like almost identical stats except for, Jayden's actually ran for a lot more. And the teams, LSU's had a harder strength of schedule so far.
Yeah.
I'm looking at him like, damn, I didn't realize he was really, really balling like that. But, man, talk about turn a corner, by the way. I mean, the balls that he's dropping into these receivers' hands, it's incredible. It is incredible. So,
yeah.
No more Jayden Daniels hitting.
Oh, none.
Far from
Zero.
it. Yeah.
Zero. The level of football he's playing right now, as well as that offense. Actually, if you go back and watch, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas both had crucial drops in key moments.
Yeah.
But they also came up for you in key moments. And when they didn't, Jayden Daniels did. So you have playmakers all over the field that are going to go out and make game-changing plays offensively. You just need the defense to be a little bit better. You just need them, and you don't even need them to be great. With the level that this offense is, you need them to be bad and not awful.
Yeah.
Like that's really where
or
LSU
awful
is.
and not the worst. like there's definitely levels to this stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but that's my point is with how well LSU is playing. They're offensively, they look like a national championship contender. Defensively, they look like they probably don't need to be on the field.
they don't need to be Power 5, yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's what it is in the SEC West for a team that for so long held themselves as DBU, and they're not that right now. So
yeah, tell people the score of this next game, and let's roll through that one.
24 Fresno State at Wyoming. Fresno State was a 6.5-point favorite. Wyoming wins at 24-19.
All right, let's hop on.
Hold on.
You want to cover anything on that one?
I do. I said I would not be shocked to see Wyoming win because of the games
Let's
they played
go,
this year.
baby.
Right? Did I not?
What'd you say? Because
Run
of
the
what?
tape. Run the tape. Because of how well they've genuinely played this year. They took Texas to the fourth quarter tied.
Right.
They've played some really, honestly, impressive games.
You know how many teams have taken Ohio State to the halftime? I mean, oh, bullshit.
Wyoming is they're a one-loss team at this point now, and they played Texas really well through three and have a top 25 win, one of over Fresno State now.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think it's insane that we're about to get to the AP poll here. Wyoming should have been ranked in the top 25. Let me go through it. 1 through
Good.
1 through 5. Georgia, Michigan.
Hold on, real quick. Can we do our power ratings first?
We're gonna disagree with this, so I figured we'd go after.
My phone's gonna die, but go ahead.
Okay. Number 1 through 5: Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Oklahoma. Any issues there?
No, I feel really good about those actually.
Yeah, I don't have any issues there.
Florida State is but I don't know that they're better than Penn State, but we're about to get there. So
that was my exact point.
Yeah.
6 through 10: Penn State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, USC.
Penn State over Oklahoma wouldn't have pissed me off either.
Yeah.
So if you were to go on Florida State, Penn State, Oklahoma, I wouldn't have been mad.
I would have just swapped Florida State and Penn State. I would have gone
Putting Oklahoma in the middle.
Oklahoma, Penn State, Florida State if it were me, but whatever. I don't love having USC at 10, to be honest. I don't think they've played like a top 10 team all year. But I don't know who I would put in there.
And then honestly, if it's me, I like Oregon over Washington as well. But they were both on bye, so
Okay.
didn't expect that to change.
11 through 15: Alabama, North Carolina, Ole Miss, Louisville, Oregon State. I'd put Ole Miss over North Carolina.
Me too.
And then other than that, we're gonna see Louisville, North Carolina. So I'm not. I don't have any issues with that.
Yeah. I feel good about those though.
16 through 19, because we have a tie at 19 and no number 20 for whatever reason. Utah, Duke, UCLA, and then Washington State and Tennessee are both 19 with 412 votes.
Who's the better team at 19?
Washington State.
Yeah, I think. After this week, I'm probably taking Tennessee, but I think they have the better resume. But
regardless, 21 through 25.
No, yeah, I think UCLA is too high, but it's not like criminal. So
okay. 21 through 25: Notre Dame, LSU, Kansas, Kentucky, Miami.
Don't hate it. Miami could have dropped out. Wouldn't have been mad at that at all. But being at 25, I mean, okay. Kept them
Again, I recognize this isn't a power rating, so I understand having Notre Dame at 21, but they're better than. There's not 20 teams better than Notre Dame, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
All right, our power ratings. Your phone died.
Put that Johnson
right
there in the
time.
mid-piece.
I'll just flip it for you. Here we go. All right, our power ratings. At number 1, I have Michigan.
Yeah. I got to have Georgia at 1. They made that jump for me this week. Again, I had some concerns. Again, and this is a rating to explain. This is not a ranking. But they did everything they possibly could to show me they were the best team in college football again this week, and that's where I have them.
Yeah. Again, I moved Michigan up to number 1 last week because I think they're doing everything the way they're supposed to. They're dominating the teams they're supposed to dominate. You can't blame them for who's on their schedule, right? They make them 3 years early, and then the conference games are just conference games. They can't be faulted that their conference is bad for the most part outside of 4 or 5 teams. They're doing everything they're supposed to do. They have the number 1 scoring defense in the country, top 20 scoring offense in the country, 13th strength of record to this point, number 1 in efficiency. This is a solid team. I'm toss-up between Michigan and Georgia. I have Georgia at 2.
But I have Michigan at 2.
But right now, I just have Michigan at number 1.
Yeah. Okay.
And I wouldn't be mad either way. If you came up to me and were like, "Hey, Georgia's number 1," I'd be like, "Okay."
That's what I just did.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. I'd be like, "Okay." So that was unnecessary.
No, I just did it. Yeah, Georgia's better than Michigan.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
At least you held true to what you said you'd do.
Yeah. All right. Number 3, I have Ohio State.
Yeah, I have Oregon. There. This is the only 3 I remember, so you are going to have to turn a little bit better. But no, I have Oregon here. I had Ohio State here, and they – Oregon jumped on a bye week. Everybody's going to be like, how the hell did – yeah, I know. Again, they left on a high note. I say left as in they had a bye week. And a couple teams, to me, kind of dropped a little bit. I feel really good about Oregon. I am sitting there watching and seeing now what some of these teams did to their opponents and going, oh, that wouldn't have happened to Oregon. You know what I mean? So they went up a little bit for me.
Yeah, I left mine exactly the same.
Yeah.
My top 4 didn't move, mostly because Oregon was on a bye week. I'm not going to jump them.
Right.
And then Ohio State, again, I think we just looked at that game differently. Ohio State found themselves tied 17-17. They made the adjustments necessary and then went on a 20-0 run. I think that's more impressive than just winning by 20 throughout. I think if they just, came out and won, 37-17?
Yeah.
If they did that from start to finish, maintaining a lead, I'd say, yes, of course, that's impressive. They did that. I think it's more impressive to get punched in the mouth, come together and say, okay, everybody relax. This is what we need to fix, and then go out there and actually fix and execute. I think that's a sign of a really complete team.
Yeah, so I have them at 4, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. I have Ohio State at 4. They jumped for me too. For the same reason. However, I will reiterate, like I did earlier in the show, you can't get punched in the mouth quite like they've been punched in the mouth against far better competition. And if you can, and they prove me wrong, holy shit. That's incredible. If they are able to consistently go down, come back and win the game, sometimes in dominant fashion, they deserve to be the best team in college football like ESPN somehow has them. So they do have a really impressive win. That was a freaking crazy game. But that's why they're not my number 3 specifically.
And your number 3 is my number 4.
Yeah.
Again, my top 4 stayed the same.
I didn't realize you had Oregon so high.
Yep. I had Oregon at number 4 last week.
Yeah.
So at number 5, I have Penn State.
Yeah.
Again, I think they're just doing everything right. That's all.
And at number 5, I had
Washington.
Love it. So now let me ask you this. So you have, this is not the preview, but like the people that stuck around, thank you, first of all. Second of all, give them your little bit of preview. You have Oregon favored, right? I don't know where that game is played.
I have Washington favored.
You just had Oregon at your 4.
I think Vegas is going to have Oregon favored, but I do have Washington. I think Washington's going to win the game. I think it's a toss-up for the most part.
This is who you're supposed to have favored.
Not necessarily. It's who I think would win on a neutral field.
Where's the game? In Washington?
I think it's in Oregon. Let's see.
So who do you think's going to win the game on Saturday?
I think it's a toss-up. No, it's at Washington. I think it's a toss-up. Here's the problem, right? I do think Washington's going to win, but I think it's because Oregon's not going to be able to keep up with Michael Penix Jr. If the running back tandem for Oregon is as much as a factor in the game as Oregon would like them to be, it's going to be really hard for Washington to win.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's why I have Oregon at 4.
Yeah, I have Washington right following. However, this is kind of where my gap is drawn. after Ohio State. And I only have Ohio State up there because they have they had a nice win. They've shown some promise. And I do think they're still figuring it out. But after this, I kind of have a little bit of a drop to Washington. Yeah, man, I think Oregon wins by 2 possessions. And we'll get to the game. We'll break it down, Lord knows, in depth. But, yeah.
All right, at 7, I have Oklahoma.
We didn't do 6.
6 for me was Washington.
Oh, okay. Who was my 6?
Oklahoma.
Fair enough. Brother.
So you're 6, my 7.
They were not in my top 10 last week.
They were in mine.
They were my 11 last week. They struggled to make my top 10, and I ended up not putting them in. Wow. Yeah. They opened everybody's eyes up, me included. So I knew that game would be close. I'm not saying I thought they were going to get blown out, and they ended up pulling it out. But they showed me they are truly a top 6 team.
Yeah, I just have them at 7. I had Penn State in front of them. You have Penn State at 7.
Right behind them, yeah.
But I'm not mad at the placement of them. I am mad at you because I had Oklahoma in my top 10 last week, and now you're trying to act like as if you think Oklahoma's better than I do.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
How you like that?
That's not how that goes.
Yeah.
But regardless, all right, you have Penn State at 7.
Yeah, the problem is, I looked at it today. This is a claim. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. This is an objective thing I'm about to make subjective.
Okay.
So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't know, and I haven't checked, that they've played a 4 or a 5-star all year. Their 2 best games are Illinois and Iowa. 2 historically, in recent years, great defenses. Like, actually, not being a jerk. 2 historically great defenses who have not been this year, either of them, and neither of which have an offense. So, and other than that, they've had a bunch of cupcake games, but a lot of people have too. But that have been their 2 so far. They've been very impressive, but it's hard not to be when you're playing those kind of teams. They have a top 10 recruiting class every year. None of those teams usually have a top 50, 5-0 recruiting class. Mm-hmm. Their strength of record is like 7 or 12. I think it was 12. It's not. I struggle with Penn State.
Well, strength of record is not strength of schedule.
I understand.
All right.
But, yeah, man, they've been taking care of business. They've been doing everything they can. But they haven't shown me what these other teams have shown me. So, that's all.
All right, so our 8 and 9 are the same 2 teams, but in different order. I have Florida State at 8, Texas at 9. You have it flipped.
Yeah, Texas and then Florida State. Texas, for all intents and purposes, was all over Oklahoma. They were all in that game. Obviously, came out, not on top. But damn, they played a great game. That just showed me again how good Oklahoma was. We talked about it whenever we reviewed the game a little bit. Where was the biggest swing? Did Texas go up more or did Oklahoma go down more? For me, it was identical because they came from 11 to 6 and then from, I believe it was 3 to 9.
3 to 8.
3 to 8. There you go, 5 and 5. I was like, wait, that's not identical. So yeah, 5 and 5. And that's truly how I felt about that game. They went back and forth. Texas is really freaking good.
Yeah, and look, I said that we had them flipped. I literally just moved Texas to 8 and Florida State to 9.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it, I do think Texas would be favored over Florida State in Vegas. But also, from watching that Texas-Oklahoma game, I don't see a way to say there's anybody that fits directly in between Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
Me having Oklahoma at 7, it makes perfect sense to have Texas at 8. I think they're 2 very, very similar teams, 2 really, really good teams.
Yeah.
And I don't think Texas losing this game versus Oklahoma means they're night and day worse.
Agreed.
By any means. I think if they play again, it'd be a maybe less than 5-point spread.
Right. I agree.
At 10, I have Notre Dame. Yes, I know Notre Dame lost to Louisville. Yep, I know Notre Dame lost to Ohio State. Don't care about that stuff. I think that I don't think there is 10 teams that Notre Dame could go play today or tomorrow or Saturday for that matter and be dogs too. I really don't. I think Louisville caught them at the exact right time. I said that last week in the preview show that it was going to be a tough game for Notre Dame. They're going to be exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, all of those things. And I think that's what happened. Now, I think if Notre Dame had a bye week this Saturday and played Louisville the following Saturday, I still think they'd be favorites.
Okay.
And that's simply why I have them there.
Yeah.
I know I can't explain all that whenever we put the Instagram graphic out, and then everybody's going to say, does Joe not know Notre Dame lost to Louisville? Yeah, I do.
He must not have watched the
Yeah.
game.
Go ahead.
Who do I have at 10?
Alabama.
Alabama. So you don't have Alabama in the rankings. You think Notre Dame would be favored. And again, just to clarify, too, this is not who Vegas would have favored. This is who you would have favored. You have Notre Dame over Alabama if they played, we'll say, like you just said, if they both had a bye week this week and played not this Saturday but next.
I think it'd be a really, really close game. Yeah, I do think Notre Dame would be favored.
Nice. Okay.
But one possession.
Yeah, for damn sure. Notre Dame's, one of my first, we'll say 5 out, 13, 14, somewhere in there. But, man, I mean, Bama.
And again, this is not – I say that assuming they wouldn't play this week after coming off of Ohio State, Duke, Louisville.
Yeah.
That 3-game stretch. I get 2 games on the road. So I'm assuming that Notre Dame is playing Alabama on a neutral field, well rested. I think Notre Dame would be favored by 1 possession.
Yeah, I find that really tough, honestly, because I mean you have a 1-loss Alabama team who has a great win over Ole Miss. Their 1 loss does come to a top 5 team, or top 10 team. Now Notre Dame has the same, right? They have 2 losses. One of them is to a top 10 team, top 3 team in both of ours. Top 4 team in both of ours. I just struggle with that one. Notre Dame doesn't have any good wins.
I think Duke is a great win.
I think it's a pretty good win. I think it's a worse win than Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is a more impressive win. And again, only 1 loss to another great team. So I don't know. I struggle with that one, but I do think Bama's a better team there. But I would have Notre Dame in my first couple out.
I think they're very similar.
I do too, and they are similar teams. That's where I'm at.
Cool.
Both very well coached.
Yeah, cool. If you went to any of the games this weekend, obviously I hope your team won. That's a big part in going to the games. It's not quite as fun if they don't. But if you went, I really hope you used our code 10-second runoff and saved yourself some money. If you didn't and you're going to games this weekend, go to SeatGeek, use code 10-second runoff. That's 10 SECOND RUNOFF. Save $20 off your first purchase. Buy whatever you would like to buy with that $20. I would encourage beer for your tailgate or 2 beers at the game. That's the best move, right? Save $20, enhance your game day experience.
Right.
It's great. Other than that,
or get better tickets just because you save $20.
Yeah, you save $20, get $20 better tickets.
Yeah.
But right.
That's not much. Right?
No, you want the better.
You might can move a road down. Yeah. I'd rather beer.
Yeah.
But
Regardless, appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be back Wednesday. Thank y'all.